Wrestling. Just literally off watching the Impact Wrestling show, and you know what? Heavily enjoyed it. But I want to talk about a few extra bits before we get into what I thought of this week's Impact Wrestling show. Now, do you know what? I want to be really honest. From a wrestling perspective, this week has been kind of exciting, but also heavily depressing in a lot of ways. So this week we lost probably one of the most influential professional wrestlers of a whole entire generation, of generations, in a lot of ways. A guy that influenced, I think, a lot of American Deathmatch Wrestling and World Deathmatch Wrestling. A guy that we know influenced greats like Mick Foley. And this week we lost Terry Funk. And I'm not going to lie, I'm 35, 36 years old. I wouldn't particularly say that I know everything about Terry Funk or what he did in the 80s or anything like that, but I remember ECW because that's what I grew up on. I was a tape guy, DVD guy in that sense, and in that concept, so I watched a lot of that. Major League Wrestling early days in that element. I remember when he had that very, very brief 2004 element in TNA Wrestling when I believe he tagged with Raven. And I believe CM Punk was in the match as well, and it's a very controversial match in that sense. But we lost a legit legend this week, and do you know what? I'm not gonna lie, heartbreaking, murderously heartbreaking in a lot of ways because he did influence the best of the best, and my thoughts are with his family, my thoughts with people like Mick Foley, his loved ones, because he was that great, he was that important. And it is heart-wrenching and it's gutting. But I woke up this morning and I had about 30 texts from friends that obviously were up far later than me last night. And we also this week lost Bray Wyatt. Now, what's important about Bray Wyatt is, for me, I always wanted him at TNA. I wanted him at Impact because he fitted the mold. He was a creative. He had a mindset. He could change things. Artistically, he would have been great working with the guys like Decay, Abyss, Rosemary, Crazy Steve. And I was hoping that he would eventually sign with like Impact possibly in that element because he would have been remarkable. He would have been beautiful. He would have been gorgeous in everything he could offer the professional wrestling industry outside of WWE. But what he did in WWE was so important with the Wyatt family. Not everybody liked it, but you know what? The Fiend, the Firefighter Funhouse was one of my family's favourite things. And I'm not going to lie, I always tell you, I don't watch WWE weekly. I watch Impact weekly, I watch NWA weekly, and I watch AEW weekly. But it was one of them concepts where when my kids had it on, because my kids were a massive fan, my wife's a massive fan. She's got all his action figures over there in a box, in a box, and she was quite tearful this morning about this. Is that what he offered was an artistic element of what I love about professional wrestling, and it was so important. And as a father of 4 kids, and I know he's got I think 2 or 3 kids, my heart breaks that his kid's not going to have a father now. So my thoughts and everything go out to his family because it is unfair. And I believe it was a heart condition or something like that. I don't know. I'm just off what I'm reading off the dirt sheets. But my heart, my mind, my body is with his family today. I didn't know him personally, and a lot of people probably don't, but they are with them, and we should respect their privacy in this time when they're struggling and stuff like that. But yeah. Yeah, I know. It's one of them starts. I can't do much about it, but I had to say something because it's big on wrestling, and I'm a wrestling fan in that element. But we'll move on. If you know me, you'll know I am a ECW fan. Okay, guys like the Blue Meanie, Nova, Stevie Richards, Raven, Super Crazy. Who else we got? We've got early Rey Mysterio. Steve Corino, flipping Just Incredible, one of my all-time favourites, Mike Horse, all sorts of guys that were that were influences on me to continue to be a wrestling fan. That is one of my favourite concepts of professional wrestling was ECW, and so important. And if you know me personally, you'll know that I'm a major Impact fan, so I try to do a mini show every single week. And you'll know I'm also a GCW fan as well. And as a minute ago, GCW is something else I watch weekly, a GCW fan. And what I like about all of them concepts, me growing up in the care system, I always felt like a misfit. I always felt a bit different in that element. And Brian Myers, on a great interview that he had with Sam Roberts this week, said this element that ECW, TNA, Impact has always felt like the land of misfit toys. And I found that as one of the most important statements that I've heard about Impact Professional Wrestling in a long old while, because that's what Impact is. Impact has a little bit of everything for absolutely everybody. And I have a legit passion for this product for this reason. And it's crazy because how did this week's episode started? It started with the French-Canadian Frankenstein PCO coming in. The first 49 seconds hit some insane freaking moonsault-y PCO. So the crowd are shouting, "Get the tables out." Singh gets put through a table. Bully does this insane promo where he goes, "I know you want to get me, but you can't get me. I'm in the safety of my hotel. I'm a Hall of Famer." And Bully basically says, "I'm going to get you. I'm going to finish you." And that is it. And that's how the show started. All in 4 minutes. And it was incredible. The land of misfit toys is the prime example why this is the best show in wrestling. Pay the £5 on YouTube to watch the weekly show. It's worth it. And we crack straight into the Women's World Champion. Okay, Trinity for 2 versus Jody Fret. That is one of them wrestlers that you can't help but love with her aggressive approach, how she runs into the ring, and how everything she offers is so important. Every moveset, every moment that there is a moment to do something, she is trying her best to do it. Versus Trinity for 2, the lady with all the answers. So, what you got to understand about Impact, with the women's division, there is never an easy match. And there never will be an easy match. And Trinity, right off the cuff, goes in there. But Jody gets the upper hand very, very quickly. We see some incredible movesets that are put together by both wrestlers. It looks like some insane artistic element. But it does look like in moments that Trinity feels lost in the concept of Jody's full-on aggressiveness and her approach in the match. Because Jody works best, I've noticed, in the element of chaos. If she is producing chaos, there is always going to be a win. Fundamentally, Trinity did win this match. She fouled a Mao face. All right, Jody jumped out of 1, 2, 3, and then she hit a second one, a 1, 2, 3. This was not an easy match. This was an aggressive, powerful, insane push of a match that Trinity for 2 deserves, because every match she has had at Impact has been a hard match. And that is what you get with the female knockouts division. Deonna beat the shite out of her. She came out winning. Kylon King beat the shite out of her, but she came on winning. Because that is the attitude of her too. That is the attitude of Trinity. That is the attitude of what the Glow can offer the wrestling division. And everything she does tells a tale, tells a story, down from her outfit, down from her hair, with Trinity wrote in it. For me personally, this is why the Knockouts division is the best. I'll use the line again. The land of misfit toys. Trinity was not shown the respect fundamentally from my perspective in WWE. She comes over to the Knockouts division. She shows the Knockouts why she is as good as she is. She was a misfit in WWE, but she fits Impact. Jody, just look at her ability. She is some misfit from 1980s punk. And I love her all to pieces. Great Canadian wrestler. All round, Great first match of the night. You want to open a match? That is how you open a bloody match. Now we jump into the segments and them concepts. So Sanada, the New Japan Pro Wrestling Champion at Emergence, is going to be facing Jake something. And do you know what? Some people in the wrestling community will say this is so random, this is so odd. Who is this Jake something? If you don't know who Jake something is, you're an idiot. I'm sorry to say this because it just proves you've just jumped on Impact Wrestling. Because he did his Dina stuff with flipping Cody. He did some awesome tag stuff before. Had some time away from Impact. Come back. Bigger, better. And he is 260 pounds of beef and muscle. And he wants to prove himself. What's his name? His name is Jake something. And this will be a highly anticipated match. I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to be able to watch it till Tuesday because I'm AEW All In. But I will be watching this and I will be reviewing this match. And I'll be reviewing this match with a passion because this is going to be some good shit. So Josh comes back in. Josh is talking about the concept of, look, man, I'm back where I belong. It took me 5 months to get back. And you know what? If you watch a New Japan Pro Wrestling Multiverse, you'll understand them 5 months him come back. He's come back beautiful. He went into that ring. German suplexed. No bullshit. German suplexed every single wrestler in his first step for 5 months back into a ring. So I'm excited everything Josh Alexander does, mate. Because he is... Love it, hate it, think I'm a lunatic. He is up there with guys like CM Punk. He is up there with guys like flipping Will Ospreay. He has got up there with guys like flipping Tyrus, if you want to argue that, as a world champion. He's up there with every single one of them professional wrestlers. And he needs to be shown far more respect than what he gets. And I'm hoping he comes back, he doesn't get injured, and he starts whooping ass and kicking ass over every single promotion that he possibly can do so. We move into our next match, and this next match is Dina versus Laredo Kid. This match was always going to be interesting fundamentally. Who doesn't love a luchador? Who doesn't love a luchador? Last week, Kong versus Young was an interesting match. Do you know what? I think I said in last week's live that I was kind of disappointed with that ending, but actually, logically, for story-wise, it makes perfect sense because that match was never about Kong. It was never against fundamentally Eric Young. It was about Dina wanting to beat the living crap out of flipping Young. And we move into this week, and you know what? Laredo Kid takes very, very early control. I think the speed of a luchador was taking over what Dina could offer very, very, very quickly. There was absolutely... I love a luchador can do an attractive hurricanrana. He can make a crap hurricanrana or a crap moment look great with a moveset like this. He does this. There's a moment where Kong comes in and goes and distracts Kid. Dina comes in, does a massive clothesline. And what we happen to see at this point is we see them get back into the ring. We see Dina using his wrestling brain because he's not just a voice. He's got a brain as well. And Dina goes in there and he uses the turnbuckle to hurt his neck. He does neck breakers to hurt his neck. He does absolutely everything. And what ends up happening is Dina does that whole talking malarkey, which he's great at, he's good at, but he can wrestle. We've got to remember this, he can wrestle. His ego gets on top. So he starts going, I don't care what the people say. I don't care what the people say. Okay, so Kid takes over. He does this mad missile drop kick, and he rolls it into a driver. Goes outside of the ring. Kid rolls it. Kid gets rolled back in after a moment. Dina hits a DDT. 1, 2, 3. We see Dina win this match. And do you know what? It's a great little match. It's a good little match. It's worth the watch. It's got some story to it. It's got story, and I love that. I love that. I love the story. I love the story of the design. I love the story of what is being offered by Cody and Kong currently. And we'll see Eric Young move into this set. And we saw this in his little promo afterwards with about Young. He uses terms that are great. You were the author, but I'm the author now. Okay, you were the designer, I'm the designer now. Okay, and he's using that from the concept of the story of Violent by Design. That was Cody's original group that Dina was brought into as a mentor to be mentored. To be mentored by Young, and then we ended up seeing Young get stabbed by Dina. Blah 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 blah. No, Dina gets stabbed by Young. And this is the story that's developing here currently. And I like it. I think it's cheeky. I think it's a good story. We move to our next step, and it's a great match. Do you know what? I love bloody Johnny Swinger. I always say to people, if you ECW, WCW, flipping everything. The guy's an old bastard, but he's flipping class. And you know what? He looks great for his age as well. And he does his 80s kind of interview. Not interview, this 80s kind of segment where it's showing all his best parts, and it's showing King and stuff like that, leading into a match where he's going to have with King, and the match is going to be for the digital media title. Yeah, just a great little vignette, great little video. We move again into another segment where Gina's trying to talk to PCO, and we see at the beginning PCO's now pissed off. He's looking for flipping Bully, and he's like, Bully, where is Bully? I love Pierre, man. Man's a beast. Man's a beast. Okay, all right. And do you know what? I'm just looking for my notes, see if I've lost them. 1 second. There you go. We move straight into Ace and Bay, Bullet Club, ABC versus the Good Hands, and I'm enjoying the tag division in Impact in the minute a lot more than I have done. I think the tag division's always been good, but it got a little bit stale for a little while, and I think with the development of bringing more tag teams in, so the Good Hands being Skylar and Hodge, I think they're a class little tag team. I'd love to see them as tag team champions. I'd love to see them being fighting Subculture at some point in the future, and blah, blah, blah. Do you get what I mean? And the Rascals being back in the ABC, we're seeing a legit tag team division where it might be only 4 for now, but there's people like Rick Swan and Sammy. There's also Myers and Moose, and there is a lot of other developments that could happen with a tag division in that concept. And we've got Subculture, the Brits. So we're seeing that very, 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 very quickly. And we're seeing a development very quickly. And the concept and the story of this line, the Good Hands supposedly were paid by the Rascals to go and beat the shit out of ABC the other week. And Skylar Hodge totally denies that. And I like that. We see the match move very quickly because this is one of the matches was always going to move so fast. And the reason why it's going to move so fast because Hodge and Skylar are very classic tag team based. What they do, their movesets are very classic, and they're kind of like an FTR. I would probably argue they're more of an FTR than they are anybody else. And then you've got ABC that are very Motor City Machine Gun-esque, and a lot of their movesets are Motor City Machine Gun-esque. And yes, I say this every week, the Rascals are like that as well, and there is nothing like that because Motor City Machine Guns, it's no debate, they are one of the most all-time greatest tag teams in that element. We see a lot of classic ABC, alright, stuff. We see a lot of them classic sort of kicks to the midsections, kicks to the head, moving like that, quick into the element. ABC quickly target Hodge as the weaker wrestler, maybe, and maybe that's what they're in their mindset. We see failed tags quite a lot again, but when the hot tags do move in, we see incredible moments, and we saw an absolutely incredible moment when Bay comes in and does a slingshot DDT. And was trying to get the double team movement up with Ace, but can't do it because what happened earlier in the match is Hodge and Skylar were targeting Ace's arms and hurting them to hell. So a lot of the double teams failed very, very quickly. But fundamentally, the winner was ABC with that great moveset they put together. They put together, I think it's the Art of Finesse, whatever Ace's move is as well. I can't remember on the spot quite now. And it is an ABC match. It's a well worth match watching. It's a great filler match, enjoyable. You can sit there and just chill and just watch that match. And I think This is the good thing about it, is they understand Impact, how they should work as a show. They start off with big match, they have a few little ones, a few cool little segments, and they end with a more pushed end in that sense. So we jump back into some of the little vignettes. And we have a Subculture one. And I'm not going to lie, I say this again, and I say this again, and I say it again. Subculture in between the ropes are absolutely fantastic and brilliant. Alright, in between the ropes, they're brilliant. I don't enjoy their vignettes. I don't enjoy their promos. I think they're weak as hell. I think, honest truth, I would have Luna just do all the talking. She's very good. Webster and Andrews, not very good. So that's my perspective. They're Brits, but I love how they're holding the Impact Champion titles because it's deserving them holding them. We move into a Joe Hendry Una sort of promo, and this major got me tickling because I think Joe Hendry and Una are actually brilliant. We're talking about tag teams. This is going to be a future tag team as well. I think they'll go over these titles at some point as well. I'm not going to say they're going to win them, but it'd be fun if they did. They did this super sort of like movie-esque sort of like concept of like, earned the next big thing. That sort of concept of stuff. And it was super fun, super great. That moves into a really good match. And this sort of match is, you could say it is targeted as the co-main event, maybe. As we're saying, we're in the Motor City Machine Gun era, so we see a lot of Motor City Machine Gun concepts happening. And this is Samurai Del Sol versus Chris Sabian. Now, what's interesting about this match is Sabian Del Sol was known as Caslibo, I can't remember his name is, Lucha House Party and stuff like that in WWE. He was a 4-time WWE champion. I think was it Cruiserweight. He must have been winning and stuff like that. He also owns a CBD business with Mercedes Money, Sasha Banks. Funny little fun fact for you there. Versus the 9-time X Division champion, former world champion, legit TNA legend and professional world wrestling legend, Motor City Machine Gun, Chris Sabian. And it was an equal start. It was a very equal start. And this is the interesting thing about this match is, With Sabian's like Shelley, they're slow starters fundamentally. They're slow starters. So if you every match they watch, if you're getting the advantage of them at the beginning of the match, okay, you kind of understand that you're probably not going to win it. And you can, as a guy that watches wrestling a week and watches them a billion times, that's kind of how it works. So Sabian comes in. It's a very quick start by Del Sol. Very quick. We see a little bit of strong style by Sabian, and it's pretty much his style. They have an equal style, but from two different ends. One's lucha, one's more strong styley based. I mean, Sabian's strong style. De La Sol's a lucha when it comes down to it. It calls itself the greatest lucha of all time, which is questionable because everybody knows fundamentally when it comes down to it, it's probably maybe Rey Mysterio. Okay, so we moves into that thing. So very quick on, Sabian actually starts to focus on the left leg of Del Sol, and it's very genius stuff actually fundamentally, because the reason why it's genius stuff was what the luchas do. They like to jump, they like to go high. So he's thinking, I'm going to take these legs out, I'm going to work on these legs, I'm going to work on these legs all the way through the match. So actually fundamentally towards the end of the match, there is nothing that can happen. And it leads on where Del Sol wants to keep it on its feet, keep it quick. Sabian wants to keep it on the ground. So there's a massive portion of the match where it's a big, big ground game. We see absolutely everything being used by Sabian. One of my favourite moments of the match is towards the end, is where there is a Del Sol sits on his knees and he jumps up, he hits a Hurricanrana, a low Hurricanrana, and it comes into a DDT. And then he gets on the ropes, hits a crossbody. But at this point, that Sabian is able to answer all the questions and all the answers that Del Sol is offering. So what he does at this point, he STF into the middle of the ring. And it's a major struggle after this point, because what happens at this end, Sabian wins with a cable shot, and it's an absolutely brilliant match. It's a nice little match to watch. And I'm not going to lie, the match that I was generally excited for comes towards the end. It's Shelley versus Brian Myers. If you know me, I'm a massive Brian Myers fan. I think he is the better out of Matt Cardona in the sense of wrestling style and stuff like that. But in that element, I have quite a lot of his action figures because I'm that much of a fan of his. I loved him as Kurt Hawkins. I loved him in all elements. But first of all, we go into another bunch of interesting segments. So this is part 3 of the Crazy Steve sort of like interview series with Tom. And he is talking about my sight, my voice, my message needs to be said by you, Tom. That's why I want you here. I'm fed up of being let down. There is nothing casual about my blindness. And Steve loses it and beats the shit out of absolutely everywhere. So I'm hoping after this pay-per-view that it's going to lead in something pretty. It's going to lead in something interesting. It's going to lead in something that's going to be wrestling changer for Crazy Steve, because Crazy Steve's a legend, man. He's a legend in Impact now. He's a veteran in Impact now, and he deserves a lot more than what he gets. We move into another little vignette segment, whatever, with a tag team that I love in the women's division more than anything. They are the tag team champions. I called this. I say this every time. They go. There's going to be 3 times. We're not scared. There is more toys to play with, more people to control. Okay, this is just the next experiment. Masha and Killer. What a little vignette. Beautiful. It moves into the Eddie and Kaz vignette, and this will be the last, I believe, of these matches. It's got to be really fundamental because the story's going to get a bit stale if it keeps going. But if you know this, they've had a bunch of matches. They were both Killer Kowalski guys. They both sort of like hate each other fundamentally when it comes down to it, but they also know that they need each other for this series. And it's going to be a good match. Just going to be a good match. And then we move into the final segment of PCO. This fundamentally episode is the PCO story. Starts the match. He sort of like has a bit in the beginning bit. He has a bit in the middle, and he's got more towards the end. PCO's running around the hotel searching for Bully Ray, going Bully, 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 looking for Bully Ray. That's what he is doing. And then we move into the finale, and I'm loving these finales. I'm loving Shelley as the champion. And let's get some facts. Myers is bigger, but slower. Shelley has everything to offer with his speed and his ability. Okay, I fundamentally want Myers to win this match. I'll tell you this, I know who wins, but I want Myers to win this match. Okay, I want Myers to win this match more than anybody else in the whole entire professional wrestling. It goes, and let's have a look at what their accomplishments are fundamentally in wrestling. Shelley is a 3-time tag champion in Impact. He is a 4-time New Japan Pro Wrestling tag champion, and he's a 1-time X Division champion, and also on top of that, he is the current heavyweight world champion. Myers is a 1-time Impact champion with Cameron Grimes. He wasn't Cameron Grimes then, but that was in his first run with Impact. He's the 1-time digital media champion. He is a 2-time tag division champion. Via maybe the heavyweight champion status. Okay, they have a very similar setup. They have a very, very similar sort of concept of how their career has gone. Okay. Both of them fundamentally deserve world championship title reigns. Both of them deserve a lot more than what they've got. And Myers starts quickly. He starts to try to outpower Shelley very fast. But what happens is, very similar to the last match they were in, that tag team match a little while ago, Shelley goes in there for a quick pin. And do you know what? There's a great moment which no one mentioned online where Myers has got Shelley in some kind of lock, and Shelley gets out of it very cleverly. He steps into the ropes, then steps out to the ropes and counters it and puts himself into a gorgeous lock. And at this point, Myers loses total control. Shelley goes straight for the knee, very similar to Sabian. Goes straight for the elbow, very similar to Sabian. He is trying his best to work a bit of body that he works a lot. So what Myers' style is, he's a classic wrestler, but he's also got a brawler, so he's trying to take down that big lariat. All right. And we see a Border City, Motor City stretch being pushed out at this point. And that's very, very classic. Every moment is very classic Shelley. Classic Motor City machine guns. And we find Shelley and Sabian are legends of finding weak points. They're legends of actually working a joint to the shit. And they get that from Japan. They get that fundamentally from British Strong Style as well. And Myers tries his best at all times to take this match harder than it could. And there's a moment where Shelley drags Myers to the ropes, and then Myers takes out his leg, and then we see Myers gains a bit of control. He goes for Shelley hardcore. He goes in there and he's trying to beat the living shite out of him. And this was a great little moment because we saw the brawling concept of what Myers can offer. I always say this, I don't realise how big he is sometimes. But again, the control didn't last long enough because Shelley got out of it. As I said about Sabian earlier on, Shelley has the ability to ask the question, give you the answer, okay? Ask another question, give you an answer. And Myers couldn't quite get to the point. We see another Border City stretch. Myers turns it into a pinning opportunity. The pinning opportunity fails. At this point, there is a really, really important moment where you actually think Myers might takes it. And he hits this absolutely incredible hard DDT, but Shelley kicks out of it. And then we see this great moment where Myers hits a beautiful spear, but Shelley kicks. But Myers gives him the tiniest too much room, and he hits a sliced bread into a Motor City stretch, and we get a 1-2-3. Myers taps, and I wasn't disappointed because fundamentally I think Myers will be the champion at some point, but this wasn't his time. There's a lot of stuff that's happening in Impact Wrestling currently, and what happens at this point is what goes on, because they've got a big match at Emergence. Moose Bully runs out, starts beating the living shit out of flipping Shelley, and then Josh Casida comes out and tries to help their teammate, and Leo Rush out back beats the crap out of Sabian. So all in all, this was a good match. This was a good match. I enjoyed the match. I enjoyed the show. It's a great match because it was a great show fundamentally because it opens a lot of doors to what's going to happen. What's going to happen in the pay-per-view. Listen, guys, I want to tell you this, all right? I will be reviewing the pay-per-view, but I'll be reviewing the pay-per-view, okay, probably some point middle of next week. The reason why is I'm at AEW All In. It's going to be a kick-ass long weekend. I am definitely going to be watching the show because I'm an Impact guy. If you want to stay tuned, I will be dropping maybe in a couple of hours or even tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure when I'm going to do it yet. When I got 5 minutes, I'm going to be dropping a AEW All In prediction. I'll probably get it wrong, so I always get them wrong. But listen to me, Skullsy out. Thank you for listening.